guys, I'm Aussie Villain. Welcome to my FM20 Getting Started tutorial. Now, before we get things started here, just a quick note, if you are new to my channel, please do subscribe. There'll be a lot of other Let's Plays and things going on throughout the year, so it might be worth having a look at that. Yeah, especially if you do enjoy this, and if you do find it useful, please do hit thumbs up. It is greatly appreciated by me. Now, you've just taken over your job at the club, and where do you start? The first place in FM20 you have to start is Club Vision. This is pretty much your template for the club, what you need to look to do. So this is a game I have started here with my beloved Aston Villa, and you can see here Club Culture. These are the things that, to different varying degrees, you will need to look to do. So we don't want to sign players over 28 in this case, that's preferred. So it's not necessarily a must-do, but it's something that, you know, you're going to want to try and do. You're going to want to try and play attacking football in this situation. You're going to want to try and sign players under the age of 23 for the first team. That's a favourite, so that's something you can really get away probably with not doing. But ideally, if you want the board to be happy with you, then you need to try and do it. And playing entertaining football kind of goes in with playing attacking football. Again, it's favoured, but you're probably not going to get sacked if you don't do it. But again, it'll help you if you do. So that's the sort of things, that's your overarching, what you need to try and sign players, so sort of younger players in between, or under the age of 28, basically, that like to play attacking football. Now, this 5-year plan, this is going to give you an idea of sort of where you need to be and when you need to be there. So we need to, for this upcoming year, we need to be self-sustained. We need to sign players that we can look to sell for a profit, so young players for the first team. Work within a wage budget, that's not optional, and we do need to avoid relegation. Again, that is not optional. You can see there's a desired where you want to try and reach the FA Cup, preferred where you'd like to be in the Carabao Cup, and that's pretty much for that season. But then moving forward, you can see we'd like to become an established Premier League team. That's something that's not necessarily demanded of you, but you're going to want to do it. And then you can see moving forward, we're going to want to be in a position by the end of the 5-year plan that we are in the top half and challenging for silverware. So it tells you, you know, if you're signing, you want to sign young players because in 5 years' time, you're going to want to be challenging for the Premier League. So whatever club it is you're at, go to Club Vision over here and make sure that you know what sort of framework you're working in and what you are working towards and when you've got to be there. So having seen your Club Vision, let's go and have a look at the squad. Now, I always like to put it in order of position so you can see sort of who you have that can play what position. So you can see there, we've signed a few players for Villa, but not too many. So you can see the squad. It's a relatively well-balanced team, I would say. But what you always want to do, I think, is you always want to go and have a look at not just the first team, but see what else you have coming through the club. So to have a look at the youth teams, you want to click on Development Center down here, and then it'll bring up this sort of overview screen, so it gives you a rough idea of the main sort of players that you have there. But you want to have a look at the whole squad, I always think. So go over to, in this case, the under-23s, the overview there. Now, I do have some senior players down here that are sort of playing friendlies in the under-23s to get match fitness up. But if you click up over here, click potential, you can see the star rating there, and that'll give you an idea of who the high potential players are. So we can see here Doyle Hayes, Hepburn Murphy, Callum O'Hare, Jacob Ramsey, and so, which I think is actually a first team player. But you can see there the high potential players. There might be some players here now, a lot of them are out on loan, but for example, someone, there are 3.5 players like Bree and Andre Green, Callum O'Hare, they could be useful, and even Jake Doyle Hayes, a very high potential player that's currently 2-star. They may well be worthy of putting into the first team. Now, you might have clubs that have sort of elsewhere outside of England have reserve teams. You could find a player down there that's maybe transfer listed that the previous manager didn't like, that's actually genuinely a good first team player for you. So it's always worth checking the under-23s, and I'd always say it's always worth checking the under-18s as well to see what's down there. So you can see we have a really, really high potential left winger as well. Now, another reason for doing this is it may not necessarily help you this season, but if we know that we have a really high potential left winger coming through, we may not then, when we're looking at signing players, we may not want to go and sign another high potential left winger because we already have one in the under-18s, and I think we already had one or two here as well, didn't we? In Andre Green. So it may well help influence where you need to strengthen if you know what you have exactly coming through the club. So yeah, it's definitely always worth not just checking the senior teams, but also the youth teams as well. And one more thing I should mention before we move on here is you want to make sure that your young players are playing to make sure that this ability gets up towards the potential. Even if they're just playing in the under-23s, in the case of a Premier League team, that is better than having them in the first team and just not playing at all. I think it is worth putting them into the first team, because what you can do if you go up to training, and we'll get to training in just a second, but you can go to mentoring. I haven't actually done it there, but you can have senior players mentoring the youngsters. So sometimes it is worth calling them up into the senior team to make sure that they get the mentoring, but always make sure that you're then making them available for the under-23 so that they are playing every week, because that will definitely help them develop as well. So while we're at training, we might as well take a look at this. Now, obviously, you have the overview here for the training calendar. I always think with this, you want to sort of play it by ear, I guess. Just sort of see where your team's lacking. If you're conceding goals from corners, you might want to go to set pieces and defending corners. If you're struggling to play it out from the back, I think it's a technical, isn't it? Play out from the back. You want to sort of, I always think, sort of rotate through everything. I usually just let my assistant manager do it, to be honest. But if there's something that you see that your team is constantly, if you're missing a load of chances, then you might want to go to chance conversion. If you can't create any chances, you might want to go to chance creation. If you're struggling to, distribute the ball, it tells you there roughly what every training thing is going to do. So if you know roughly what it is you want to improve, it'll tell you here and what you need to do that. So that's as I said, I usually let the assistant manager set it up in general, but then add little tweaks where I think that needs to happen. But the main thing I wanted to show you here is the coaches. Now, what you want to do with your coaching is you want to try and make sure that down the bottom here, the star ratings here are maxed out as much as you can. So what you'll notice that I do is I go through and I find each coach where what thing they are best suited for. Now, if you're a smaller team, obviously a Premier League team, you can have more coaches than if you're, say, managing a Welsh Premier League team where you might only have yourself, an assistant, and maybe one coach if you're lucky. You just got to try and work it so that these star ratings down the bottom are as high as you can get them. Now, what I've done here, because it's a bigger club that has the resources to get sort of more coaches in, is I've got a coach on everything to get and trying to get it as high as possible, and then to keep the workload down, I've basically used our under-23 manager Mark Delaney just as a workhorse, just to go across everything and see here where it says coach workload, keeping that to average to light. So if there's a situation here, if we have where's an average workload, if we were to not have Mark Delaney doing that, it goes up to heavy, and that means that the training sessions are going to be less effective. And so as you get better, as your club grows, you get more coaches. You want to try and as contracts expire as well, try and work it so that I've never got it where every category is at 5-star, but that's obviously the dream, isn't it? So try and work towards that where you can. You can see here we just have the one fitness coach. Now, if we were to get another fitness coach in, we would have at least one on category there on 5 stars. But if you're actually looking for a fitness coach, Tony Colbert. Definitely worth searching out that name. But yeah, try and get these as the workload as light as possible. I don't really think you need to go below light. I think if you were to get a third coach on there, no, it doesn't even go below light. Yeah, try and get the stars as high as possible and the workload to average to light, and that will mean that your players are getting the best coaching that they can, and the coaching staff, it really does make a difference. So it's definitely worth taking a little bit of time. It might take you 10-15 minutes to get it right, but it's definitely worth doing. Now, if you're looking to sign better coaches, what you need to do is you need to go to the staff tab here and staff search, and that's where you will find it. Now, what you can do, if you go over to edit search here, you can search different positions. You can see all the coaching positions there, all the different recruitment positions, and all the medical staff as well. So if you're looking for a coach, so let's just go coach, and we'll say we're looking for a coach that is, well, first things first, there's 3 main coaching categories that are consistent amongst all coaches. That is motivating, that is determination, and the other one is level of discipline, which is, where's level of discipline? You can all see it, can't you? I am just blind to it right now. Is it alphabetical? There it is on the bottom there, level of discipline. So no matter what sort of coach it is you're looking for, those are 3 stats that you're going to want to have as good. So then if you're looking elsewhere, say we wanted to find, there we go, defending, tactical, you'll see that those three are marked as well as defending and tactical. So if you put them all to 15, and you can see there right now, there's no coaches willing to join Aston Villa that have that. So what I would usually do then is just the three sort of standard attributes, just start to drop them off. I like to keep the specific ones for the role as high as possible, and then I would drop these ones off. Other people will do it differently. This is just what I tend to like to do. And eventually, you should find a coach that will have all of these attributes at the minimum that we're asking. So what we might do, if we get those down to 10 and nothing happens, then we might start and drop these off a little bit. So there we go. We've got a couple of coaches there now. It's definitely, I always think it's worth, if there is a free transfer one, doing that, because it avoids you having to then pay a fee to get them released. But that's how you would find then your better coaches. So it's always, it's motivating, it's discipline, it's determination, and then whatever other attributes you want. That's for coaching. There's other attributes, as I said, there for the other roles. Say, so a technical director, you would just go pick technical director, and it'll let you know exactly what it is that you're looking for there. And then again, you can see there's a load of different technical directors available. So that's how you would search for improved staff. Okay, so let's have a look now at the tactics. Now, your tactics, to a certain extent, they're going to be governed by two things: the players you have and the club vision. Hopefully I'm not flipping people off there, actually. I shouldn't have done that. But there we go. So if we go to club vision, we know we have to play attacking, entertaining football. So that being the case, positive is the absolute minimum, really, mentality that I can use. And basically, I've looked at the squad that we have. We have good fullbacks, we have good wingers, we have a few good central midfielders, and we lack a little bit in strikers. So I feel like this is the best formation that works for Aston Villa. So that's the way that I've sort of gone about things. Now you can see up here, it'll tell you the familiarity that the players have with that formation, as well as the intensity that you're playing at. Now the higher intensity, the quicker your players are going to tire. Now, one thing I would recommend doing before you go to any game is go to the medical center here and check this. Now, I find match fatigued players do one of two things: A, they don't play well, and B, you're putting them at a high risk of injury. So I would always before every game, I would check this. If there's a match fatigued player, if you have another option, it's worth taking that other option, because I just find, as I said, they don't play as well, and you're just making them more likely to get injured. So that is that. What else do I want to tell you here? Now, what you can also do, if once you've sort of picked a formation that sort of fits the club vision and the players that you have, you can then see where you're weak, where you need to sort of angle towards the signings. It may be that you need to retrain a player if you have somebody in your squad already that is capable of playing another position. So if we were to look, for example, here at Jack Grealish, you could, in theory, play Jack Grealish as an advanced forward, as a striker. He doesn't have the jumping reach, but he does have decent finishing, decent composure. So if you were really, really lacking good flair as well, if you were really lacking a striker, you could, in theory, go and retrain Grealish as that position. So what you would do if you want to do that is training the role here. So you would train him as a striker, advanced forward, or whatever sort of specific position that you want him to retrain in. And then he would start retraining in that position. So that's one thing you can do. Or alternatively, you can then go and scout for that position. If you go and check out the scouting tutorial that there is as well, that'll sort of tell you more in depth how to do that. We will get to scouting briefly here in a second. So yeah, that is something that's definitely worth doing. As I said, the style of play as well, that'll be governed. It's got to fit your players. There's no point playing short passing football if you don't have the midfielders to do it. There's no point playing sort of more direct wing play if you don't have fast wingers and a striker that's good. It can get on the end of crosses. Now in Wesley's case, he can get on the end of crosses, as you can see there, with jumping, strength and heading. So your style of play has to fit the players, but also the club vision as well. And one other thing I did want to quickly mention: if you go to dynamics here, you'll see now, if you notice your team cohesion is poor, I would say anything in the red. One thing that you will need to look to do, and I haven't done it yet, is click on Be More Disciplined. What that basically means is that the team they won't do sort of let's say be overly creative. You can see there, it'll ask the players to play as part of a robust and focused tactical shape in order to make the team a stronger collective group. It'll come at the expense of some individual expression. You don't want individual expression if if your teammates don't know each other. So if the cohesion is in the reds, be more disciplined. You don't necessarily. I know I don't like doing it, but you will definitely notice it'll definitely help get results while the team cohesion is building. So that is definitely one thing worth doing. And the other thing I did want to quickly mention while we do this is how to close down a game. If you find yourself, say, 1-0 up coming into sort of the 85th minute or so, you need to try and close down the game, slow it down as much as possible. So you want to slow it down. You want to obviously lower the tempo. You want to waste time, so you want that up there max. You want to really, it's annoying, isn't it, when your team's trying to get that goal when you're 1-0 down, and when your other team wastes time, it just gets under your skin. So you want to be doing that when you're up. No matter what your cohesion is, you always want to be more disciplined. You want to be part of that robust shape. So we want to be more disciplined, and you want to play for set pieces. There is no better way to waste time than at a set piece, because you can take ages and ages and ages sort of stuffing around with it. So you want to play for set pieces because that'll help you waste time. And the other thing you want to do is, when goalkeeper's in possession, just slow it down. Another way to slow down the game. The other things here, you might want to counter, you might want to hold shape. I always think you always want to counter, because what's better than a 1-goal lead? A 2-goal lead. You don't have to worry about defending it then. So I always look to play on the counter attack, but it may well be that you're happy and you just want to hold shape. That there's definitely an argument to say that. And again, with the way you're defending, I always think if you're limiting the other team's chances, then just keep going how you are. But if you do find yourself under the cosh a little bit, it may well be that you might want to close up the lines and just drop a little bit deeper, or it may well be you might want to push up a little bit. Depends on the game that you're in and who you're playing against, but that's another thing you could want to do. And I always think stay on feet as well, because if you get stuck in, you're more likely to miss tackles, and you're just going to give them opportunities from free kicks. But again, maybe that's something that you want to do. That's how your team plays. So the defensive side of things, I think, depends on your team, but you definitely want to slow down the goalkeeper in possession, slow down the tempo, time waste, be more disciplined, and play for set pieces, because set pieces, great way to waste time. Okay, scouting. I do a separate scouting tutorial, but I do just want to touch on this briefly for you. So it's over here, obviously, it's scouting in the scouting department. Now, a couple of things you want to keep an eye out for here. If you go to players, and then click here, it'll give you your scouting package. If you're a big club, especially a Premier League club with loads of money, go on, scout the world. It's not gonna affect you. But if you're a smaller team with less money, you want to be realistic with what you're scouting. Now, the league that you're playing in, make sure you know the foreign player rules and or the work permit rules. If you're playing in a league, for example, where a player has to have a certain amount of international caps before they can qualify for a work permit, there's no point scouting the world for young players, because chances are you're not going to be able to sign them anyway. You'll want to and it's as if you don't have the money to do it, of course. But you'll want to you'll want to scout just the area of the young players that you can sign. So if that's in your country, in your region, or sort of the wider region, just make sure that you're not wasting money scouting young players that you can't afford to sign. And equally, again, if you're playing in a league where even if you find a player overseas, you probably don't have the transfer budget to sign them, just be realistic. It may well be that you're better off saving your transfer budget in your scouting budget and just scouting more locally. Again, if work permit rules, you only have so many. If you can only sign, say, 1 or 2, maybe 3 foreign players, it may not be worth at first scouting the world. You might be better off just really being able to scout locally, get the players in that you can sign with no limits, and then sort of build from there. So yeah, just as I would say, just be aware of the restrictions you have on signing players and obviously financially, and set your scouting package accordingly. Alright, now for transfers. Now, if you do want to have a look at squad depth to give you an idea of who you want to sign or what positions you need to be looking to sign in, if you go to Team Report here and over to squad depth, it'll give you sort of an outlook of what players you have that play the positions in your current formation. So the one that you have loaded up currently in Tactics. So if we were to change to, what's the other one I have here, to that, and you were to go back to Team Report, is it going to change automatically? No, but you can go up here and do it anyway. So you would go to all the different formations that you have there. It would actually change, I think, if we were to click continue or whatever. So a couple of things on transfers. I always think that one thing you want to do is you need to be realistic about where you are at a club and sign for when you want to be winning. So again, that could come back to the club vision if you're maybe a club that's not newly promoted in this situation. But if your 5-year plan, for example, is win the Premier League, you don't want to go and sign a 30-year-old in the first season, because that means that when you want to be winning the league, the 30-year-old is 35. They're well past their best. More than likely they've retired or you've let them go. So what you want to be doing is you want to be signing players for when you want to winning the league. So you want to go and sign the 5-star 20 or 19-year-old prospect and then give them game time so that by the time the 5-year plan is up and you want to be winning the league, they're 25 in their prime at the sort of their potential, and you have a chance to go out and win the league. If your immediate goal is win the league this year, then you might want to go out and sign that sort of the world-class 30-year-old. But yeah, I always say don't sign a 30-year-old for Burnley in the first season because it's a waste. Because by the time I pick off Burnley a lot in these tutorials. It'll be a theme. I don't know why I pick Burnley so much. But yeah, so there's no point signing a player that's in their prime now if your team isn't going to be in a position to win anything for another 5 years. So that's one thing I always think you want to be a little bit wary of. And the other thing here, as I just quickly check my notes, what was the other thing I wanted to mention? Oh yes, that's the other thing I want to mention, is be patient. Don't go out and sign players as soon as you come into the club, because you might find that you have players there that already you already have enough. Give yourself a chance to have a look and see what you have. Now, if you have a situation where you're in desperate need, you have no right backs, or you have one striker and you need to go and sign somebody, that's different. Go and sign your player then. But if you come in and you have like this where you have a number of players that can play each position, take your time. You're going to have another transfer window in January or 12 months down the line. You can sign players then, and you'll know exactly what you want and who you want to get rid of and all that kind of stuff. And also, you're giving then your scouts a chance to go and scout more players. You'll have more players that are known to you if you wait 6-12 months than if you go out straight away and sort of spend everything on one or two signings. You'll blow the transfer budget. It can be really frustrating to do that, I know, and you just want to go in, you want to spend money and buy players now. But it can be very, very worthwhile. Something that I usually try and do myself is try and tell yourself you're not signing anybody the first transfer window. If something comes up and you sign them, then so be it. It's going to happen. It happens to me anyway. But you give yourself a chance then to assess the squad and give the scouts a chance to find more players for you. And they will always find players that you didn't know about and that you wished you could sign down the line. So try and make sure you have the money to sign them, the good players, when the scouts find them. Alright, and the final thing I did want to have a quick conversation about is pre-season, and more importantly, the arranging of friendlies. Now, if you are a smaller club, friendlies can be a really, really good way to make money, and sometimes it's the only way to make money because you'll gradually lose money throughout the season. So what you want to do, and now this depends very much on the size club that you have. Now, given that the season's about to start here, we have a limited way of arranging friendlies, but I always think, it depends on the size of your stadium. If you have a small stadium, you will probably want to arrange away friendlies because you're not going to get many people into your stadium even if you sell out. But if you go over here, so you would go to arrange a friendly, you can either do home or away. So if you were to play at home, generally larger reputation teams are the ones that you want, and you can see there the fee that the team's going to charge to come and play the friendly. So if we go to the Shakhtar, that's their fee, and that's the income that we will make. Now, if we were to play that same game away from home, you can see we wouldn't make as much money from Shakhtar. But what we might be able to do is we could go and see it play Inter Milan and make 212. That would be the fee that we get. I always think if you're a bigger team, or any team really, it's almost worth playing away from home a little bit more because you're guaranteed that income, whereas if you play at home, and again, if you have a smaller stadium, so you see in this situation we would make more, but that's assuming that the people come out, which they should do. But as a general rule, if you have a bigger stadium, then yeah, play it at home, especially if you find yourself as one of the fallen giants. So it's maybe I think the perfect example maybe is Stockport in England, or maybe Bradford City down in League 2 non-league football, where you have a big stadium. If you play at home against a Premier League team, you might actually get a number of people in, but then you've got to counteract that against the fee that they're going to charge. But one thing you do want to do is don't just figure the big clubs are going to pay more. You might find yourself, if you go down to the smaller teams, it may not work out this time, but there will be some teams that aren't necessarily as big a reputation that will pay you larger fees. So it's definitely worth checking all the way down. You can see here that the team here offering 62, which is more than what Shakhtar were offering, I think, anyway. And you can find sometimes the American teams, sometimes the Chinese teams will offer you a nice fee to come to their place and play a friendly. So yeah, don't be afraid. Really haul yourself around in pre-season. Make sure that you're organizing the friendlies that make you the most money, because I mean, even if you play 5 friendlies, even as a Premier League team, where you're getting $250,000, that's a week's worth of the wage bill, isn't it? So it's definitely worthwhile doing. But if you're a smaller team, it can really, really make the difference between whether you make money that year or not. So yeah, it's very, very important to not overlook that. But there we go. That is the getting started tutorial for this FM20. If you have enjoyed that, if it's been helpful, don't forget to hit thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new, and don't forget to come and watch my Let's Play. See me in action. So you can see that I don't really know what I'm talking about. It's just do as I say, not what I do. But until next time, and hopefully next time will be very soon. I've been Aussie Villain. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.